When we talk about maps, who can change maps? Your local government, your local floodplain administrator? No. Hey, here's a hint. Nope, only FEMA can change the maps. The request must be based upon existing conditions at the time of the request. We're going to talk about what all these different acronyms are. These are letters of map change. They include, and we'll talk about each one of these in detail, letter of map amendment based on a natural condition, letter of map revision based on a man-made condition. You know, I thought that should be more politically correct than say human-made condition. But then the fact of the matter is most of the time it's men that screw things up, so they might just leave it like that anyway. Right. Letter of map revision F based on fill. That's a unique acronym.
Can you, when you're saying F based on fill, meaning that they filled, for example, let's say they filled their basement and therefore now they're at base flood?
Well, not the basement. I'll show you a picture of that in a minute.
Okay.
We'll get the idea.
Okay.
CLOMA is basically a LOMA that's conditional, hence that term. CLOMAR is a LOMAR that's conditional. And then finally the ELOMA, because we can fill those out web-based. So let's look at some of these. So our letter of map amendment. An amendment, the map change to reflect errors primarily to correct the floodplain boundary using better topo for natural conditions. LOMAs update the boundaries, the geographic boundaries. They do not change the base flood elevation. So that's important to realize. That may take a property in or out of the boundary, but it doesn't change the base flood elevation requirement. And the important thing to remember is the amendments made to reflect errors. Errors when the map was created. It does not change the BFE.
I'm sorry, can you go back 1 second?
Sure.
Bless you. Thank you.
You good now?
Yeah.
Okay. A revision, a LOMAR, map change to reflect physical changes to flood conditions. And here's our example of our LOMAR F. Our F may have been, hey, we brought some dirt in here and filled this to be able to build there. Now, we sure hope we got permission to do that before we just did it. But that may be why we need the LOMAR F. Not, hey, we filled this, we built a house, now we're trying to get permission. No, that's not how that works. Particularly if this was the floodway. If it was the floodway, and I allowed them to do that, what would they submit to show me that they were able to do that?
No rise.
No rise. A no-rise certification, correct. And what would my surcharge, my maximum surcharge be?
1 foot.
1 foot. Those, unfortunately, are the things you just have to remember. So LOMARs revise the BFE and the floodway. So if I'm putting fill in here, that may change the delineation of where the floodway is. That may no longer be within the floodway. And they do revise the BFE. So a LOMA officially amends the firm, removes the mandatory, notice mandatory flood insurance purchase requirement. Even with a LOMA, the lender may still require purchase of flood insurance. So understand what that's saying. Person owns a house, they want to get a LOMA, they're making some changes. But you know what? The lender essentially that's holding the note on their property says, hey, I still own your property until you pay it off. And since I own it, I want it insured. Because we've had people say that before. Oh, I'm going to get this and I won't have to buy flood insurance. Well, you better make some phone calls because just getting that letter from FEMA does not guarantee that you're not going to have flood insurance. Your lender, who essentially owns your property until you pay it off, may say, no, I want to see flood insurance no matter what. I don't care what piece of paper you got. It may remove a property from local regulatory requirements due to the boundary change, and there's no fee for it. The LOMAR, in this case LOMAR F, amends the firm, once again removes the mandatory flood insurance, still may be required. Existing and proposed developments must comply with local floodplain management regulations. So the other one said it got you out of that. This one is like, hey, you still got to play by our rules. Whether our rules are the aspect of freeboard, what have you, you're still playing by local rules. And the review fee varies. Conditional letters of map change do not officially change the firm. FEMA will review to determine whether the change would be approved if possible, and with 6 months of project completion, the LOMAR request must be submitted to FEMA. So we're talking about getting a conditional letter, hey, here's what we're going to do. Then once we do it, we've got to send that paperwork in. And the little picture should give it away. What else do we require? Remember what that stands for?
Endangered species.
Endangered Species Act. So we still have to show that what we're doing complies with the Endangered Species Act. As unique as that might sound, the last thing I want to do is say, yeah, you know what? You can fill in that subdivision, fill in that area there, build a subdivision. And yeah, there were some eagle nests there, but just go ahead and cut the trees down. They'll fly away and move somewhere else. No. Because we know that when we're doing these conditional changes, what does that go back to? The acronym we used before? MOM, Multiple Objective Management. So the last thing I want to do is allow a conditional letter of future change that's going to affect something like the endangered species. Hey, this is the only place I could build my 500 homes, so we filled in this area and ran out a whole bunch of endangered turtles, but you know, I got to make money and I had to build homes here. So we just chased the turtles down the street. No, we can't allow that. That's where some of this all ties together. And they do have some middle.